Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests, of which I think there's only one who's really not a guest. He's actually someone who's been around for quite a while. Tonight I'd like to take the opportunity to talk to you about living life on purpose. How many of us sitting in the room are acquainted with people who, for one reason or another, have worked at a job or they've been in a relationship for years, and one day woke up and found out that that wasn't their true purpose or their true destiny? Maybe I'm the only one. Well, I spent 13 years in the United States Army. And as you introduced me, you said that I'd spent those 13 years. Well, most of us know that it only takes another 7 years to retire. But one day I realized that that was just not my true purpose. That wasn't what was going to bring me true fulfillment and true joy. Ralph Waldo Emerson quotes, "The high prize of life, the crowning fortune of man, is to be born with a bias to some pursuit, which finds him in employment and happiness." The two have to be married together. You've got to find employment and you've got to find happiness. And oftentimes we find people who just don't find both. At any rate, I find that there are three ingredients, if you will, that will bring you to the purpose that God has destined for you. That's number one, to define those ingredients that are inside of you that realize your true potential. Number two, don't ever lose your passion. And number three, more so than anything else, you've got to persevere. You've got to continue to persevere and continue to persevere, because obstacles and trials and mountains and challenges and other things in life are sure to come. But the people who actually attain purpose are those who continue to persevere despite those obstacles and despite those challenges. I'm quite sure you know about that as a football coach. You have to teach some of your, if you will, some of your students to overcome the obstacles and the trials. Sometimes they're in pain. I remember one of my favorite movies is Facing the Giants, and I like the scene where the young man is taught to persevere, and to persevere, he's on the other guy's back, and he's taught to push on despite how he feels. And we all have to do that at times. One of the things I want you to know tonight is that you're valuable. Now, I'm sure that this doesn't apply to anybody in this room, but I meet people on a daily basis who wonder if they have any value or any worth, if there's any purpose for their life, if they're doing anything that's significant. Every day I meet people like that, and I have to tell them that you're unique. When God created you, He broke the mold. And when He created you with an intrinsic value that no one else has. It's special. No matter what it feels like or what it looks like, you've got to know that you are unique and that you're special. And because you're valuable and because you're unique, your potential is unlimited. So, secondly, we want you to know that you should never lose your potential. Maybe somewhere along life, and again, maybe this doesn't apply to anybody that's in here. When I'm at my church, I always say that this applies to the people that are in the other room, that are behind those doors. But every now and then, some of us begins to lose our passion. We begin to lose sight of what we were really made to do, the purpose for which we were born. And when that happens, you've got to pick yourself up by your bootstrings and really figure out, hey, refocus yourself, reorient yourself, and realize that this is not the end-all and be-all of who I am. So, Elizabeth Gilbert says that if you've lost your life's passion, don't sweat it. Just get back up for a while, or just back off for a while, but don't get idle. Try something different. Lastly but not least, perseverance, perseverance, perseverance. Perseverance is synonymous with determination. What I found is that if we live life long enough, we'll all run into some obstacles. We'll all run into some trials. We'll all run into some things that will utterly stump our faith and that will cause us to not want to persevere. I'm quite sure that there were times in law school that you found yourself in challenging situations that caused you to say, hey, is this really what I want to do? Or you had to actually persevere past those obstacles, the late night studying, the other things. You saw other students who may be doing other things and not really applying themselves, but you made a determination that you were going to persevere. So what I would say in closing, I want to tell you a small story. There were a few frogs that found themselves going through the woods. Maybe some of you have heard this story before. I'm quite sure that David has heard this story, or Will, or William. Somebody's heard this story before. But there are a couple of frogs that are going through the woods. And as they're going through the woods, two of the frogs fall into a hole. And so there are other frogs who are standing around the outside of the hole. They're looking at them. And they're screaming and yelling, you might as well quit. You might as well give up. And in life, we're going to find there's always going to be people who's going to tell us that we should just give up and not try to do what we're doing. And so as they look down into the hole, one of the frogs decides, well, you know what? They're right. I'm just going to give up and quit. And so he falls over and he dies. The other frog is determined. He's got perseverance. He says, you know what? I'm not going to quit. Now, at the end of the story, we find out that after a while, he finally jumped out of the hole. And what we found out about that frog is that he was deaf, and he couldn't really hear him anyway. So the people that were telling him, hey, you're not going to make it, he couldn't hear him. So in his mind, he was determined to persevere. What I find is, in closing, there are 525,600 minutes in a regular year, 527,040 in a leap year. Make up your mind tonight that you're not going to waste one of those moments ever wondering whether or not you make a difference. Number two, don't waste any of that time thinking that you're not unique or valuable, but rather live each day as if though it were your last. Live each day without regrets. Get up each morning with the intent to make a difference in this life. Agmendino quoted, I am here for a purpose, and that purpose is to grow into a mountain, not shrink into a grain of sand. Henceforth, I will apply all my efforts to become the highest mountain of all, and I will strain my potential until it cries. I challenge you today to live life on purpose, to make sure that you unlock that unlimited potential that's within you. Be determined to never lose your passion, and be perseverant. Never quit until you reach your goal. Mr. Toastmaster.